Hey, I want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. I'm not sure how you found us, but I want to let you know that we have made it as easy as possible for you to find, follow, and share this podcast with as many people as possible. All you have to do is type in Community Solutions, and we're in the Apple iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, we're on Spotify, and as usual, you can find it out on YouTube or by going directly to podbabble.com, the great podcast network that we're part of. So go out there and go nuts, because the more that you share this information, the greater opportunity that you have to change your community. So thank you again for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
I can feel the pressure. It's getting closer now. We're better off without you. This is the Community Solutions Podcast.
There. Oh,
Nice. I think that's copyrighted. Don't do any more than that.
Oh, okay.
No. This is Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, who you heard chiming in over there.
yeah. What was that? It was like Bill and Ted. You know, did they?
Yeah. Oh,
did
yeah.
They have the before every scene. They got got Socrates.
Right. So great. Ziggy Piggy. All right.
So who was that this week?
That's a group called Paramore.
Oh, Paramore. I knew that.
I bet you did. They're your favorite. I know it.
Isn't that actress, Drew Paramore?
No.
Oh, okay. The wedding singer?
No.
Something like that.
Big negatory. Oh, my goodness. Well, there's not too many things that are more wrong than your song picks. But we're going to talk about a couple of things today that certainly are.
Yeah, you mean my lack of knowledge on it. Yeah. You pick good music. I don't know who the heck sings it.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're in charge of running a school district or a statewide regional development organization, and you don't know what you're doing, that's
a problem.
Yeah, a little bit. What you going to do, though, huh?
Well, I tell you what.
Yeah, let's start with the local lowdown today.
Yeah, local. I mean, I don't even know where to begin here with the school district I graduated from.
Well, that explains a lot.
It sure does. It was a long time ago, but,
Yeah.
Jay, correct. I know I'm getting old here, but correct me if I'm wrong. We passed, the Robbinsdale School District passed a 10-year referendum in 2014.
Okay.
Wasn't it a 10-year one? I thought it was 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I seem to remember.
Now, this year is 2018.
4 years later, for those of you that graduated from Robbinsdale Schools.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. You run out of fingers.
Right.
And we are now 4 years later, and the board is unanimously directing administration to meet the requirements necessary for a referendum this November.
Well, and let's say, I mean, if they don't, and this is and we'll get into this, but administration is saying, well, it might be too soon to do it this year, so we could look at next year, which is even worse, believe it or not. So let's get into this a little bit, because this is crazy. Why, in the middle of a 10-year referendum, would we be voting on another referendum? We've talked about this, and we even predicted it.
Yes, I mean, when this unified district vision, the last time they come up with something like this, it was their strategic plan.
Right.
What came next year? A referendum.
It's a strategic plan on how to get more money out of taxpayers.
But it's and I want
like the unified district vision is get more money out of taxpayers.
Pretty much. And I want to say too that there's two different Sun Post articles. You're right about that. We were talking off the air, and I hadn't seen the second one. One from May 21st, one from May 23rd. I'm going to hop on the one from May 21st.
Okay.
Because this points out some interesting things that they keep saying as far as discussing timetables for a referendum. Now, am I fair to assume, Jay, if I was in charge of you and I gave you a 10-year plan, and 4 years later you asked for more money, who would just cut over a check without going, well, wait a second here, what's been going on for the past 4 years?
Well, when you're talking school levies, you'd be surprised. That's the majority of people.
This is true.
It's for the kids, Andrew.
I know.
What's wrong with you?
I'm a child hater if I don't.
Yeah.
And what
you can't even question what it's for.
No,
don't
of
do
course
it.
Not.
Don't do it.
I would never do something like this. And it's interesting to listen to the board members' comments. I
don't know if interesting is the right word, but yeah. Go ahead.
Well, first off, Carlos Jenkins, the guy who talked about our biological transformation of schools. He was the superintendent over at Robbinsdale. That he wants to know that the taxpayers want to see a return on their investment. He's just now realizing that. First off, I don't invest, okay? This is not an investment. I'm tired of my tax dollars and spending being called an investment.
The children are our future, Andrew.
Yeah, I know they are, but I'm not investing.
Treat them well, and they will lead the way.
Whose side are you on out here? I mean, and they go on and on about these budget cycles. And what bothers me, and bothers me to no end, is the collusion with staff.
Yeah.
Because this is all about getting them more money.
Right.
It really is.
That's a big part of it. I mean, yeah, you might see flat screens instead of the big old box TVs.
But that's not necessary to education.
No, it's not. But that's part of the unified district vision, Andrew, to upgrade the classrooms to make everybody feel good so that they want to learn.
Well, I don't care what they want. Okay, nobody cared what I wanted when I was at school.
No, they said you do this and it's due tomorrow.
Right. And I went home and my mom and dad said the same thing. So there was no thing. But of course, time is of the essence.
Right.
Mike Herring of the district says the district needs resources. Waiting a year will only add. It's horrible. We're losing we're losing resources that we could redirect to balance literacy. Huh? So is literacy like a teeter-totter? We've got to do something about our MCA scores. Yeah, your MCA scores have sucked for the last 20 years. If you're realizing you have to do something now, where the hell have you been? Councilmember David Boone, I'm sorry, agreed. The time to go is now. Oh, no. Of course.
It always is. It's amazing that the time is always now. None of these people ever think of things in advance. It's like, hey, we need to plan to do this. No, the time is now because we have screwed things up so bad that we can't wait another moment to get this done.
Well, of course, it's the government thing. Create a crisis. That's how you do something. You create a crisis.
Right.
Board member Sherry Tyrell has some interesting comments.
No, well.
Said her concern was two separate campaigns. I didn't know about this. Seeking a levy referendum and seeking a facilities referendum. What do we need that for? Haven't we rebuilt all the schools now?
Didn't they do two last time?
I don't know, but haven't
they do an operating levy and a
facility? Yeah. I don't recall that, but maybe it doesn't matter.
Maybe it was the one before that, but. Yeah, I mean, really, we're looking at that now. Now, was it her or Patsy Green that was the one that wanted to purchase residences to be able to put
Sherry.
Oh, yep, Sherry. So that's who you're dealing with. This is somebody that wanted to purchase residences, high-density residences, to put low-income families in so that they could afford to stay in the district and go to school. Yep. But hey, she's still on the council, so you guys are doing great out there voting for school.
Well, you'll be glad to know, of course, they got, what's his name? The guy with the ponytail. The teacher federate. Peter Eckhoff, that's his name. President of Robbinsdale Federation of Teachers, who should have nothing to do with this discussion.
That's true.
He's not on the board. He has no say as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But it shows how well tied they are together, because Eckhoff knows 80% of the money coming in an operating referendum goes in his union's pocket.
Right.
He said, I don't think the staff is prepared to take on a referendum right now. Well, who cares? You're not. What do you mean you're not prepared for it?
Well, they got to print up all the marketing materials, and they got to. It takes time.
They got to arrange everybody's union dues.
They got to do that. You got to print out flyers and have school events. I mean, school is ending. I mean, you're going to have things at football games. You're going to have to be able to hand things out at the Bing Bong days or whatever it is in New Hope. So it's.
I want to go on to the. I mean, it's going to happen. I'm just telling you, folks, it's going to be on the ballot. You just mark my words.
Yeah.
Robbinsdale Area Schools unified district vision and strategic priorities. Now, folks, tell me if I read this off, does it not sound like everything else you hear about public schools rewritten a little differently? They found the new buzzwords. They found the new things that the soccer moms and whatever you call them now, NASCAR dads want to hear.
Right.
All this stuff is poll tested and so on and so forth. Quote, balanced literacy. Listen to what that means. And you tell me what it means at the end of it, Jay. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Tell me what I'm saying.
I'm going to put on
because
my
I sure as hell
ears.
don't know what I'm saying.
Okay.
Evidence-based approach to ensure all students read and write using a variety of complex texts to develop critical thinking and communication skills in all content areas.
Now, I don't know if you knew this about me. I used to be a teacher.
Yes,
I was a
music
band
teacher.
teacher.
Yep.
I was a band
I
teacher,
knew
but
that,
but I had to take all the courses in college, to be any kind of teacher, and so I'm used to this educational speak. I saw it all the time. At the time,
it's been a while since you've been in the classroom, though, ain't it?
Yeah, but I mean the writing is still the same. Describing these things. I'm trying to think what was before No Child Left Behind. Do you remember? Outcome-based education.
Yeah, that's
what
right.
it was. So I was used to reading about all of these outcomes that they were.
Once again, the false narrative that you can get an equal outcome,
right,
or equal opportunity,
right,
different outcomes,
right. So, in my professional opinion, being a college-educated man who part of the education field. I don't know what it means.
I'd like to know
That's
what
a bunch
a
of
variety
hoo-ha.
of complex text is. If you're talking about literacy, isn't that getting people to learn how to read?
Right. So
why don't we just say that?
Yeah.
We'll get everybody to learn how to read.
Right. Exactly.
Evidence-based approach.
Using a variety of different books.
Or probably iPads today.
Although, keep in mind, I mean,
in fact, I think the second levy in 2014 was for the technology levy, not facilities. But go ahead.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep. See, I knew there were two.
Yeah, there were two questions.
Yeah. So, based on Common Core, which is lovely. I'm glad we're still using this. Not only does it screw up math, but also in reading, it takes away a lot of the classics that we have become accustomed to reading, things that are, have been part of the education experience for decades.
Well, they probably have, stuff that would make minorities uncomfortable or something like that.
Some of it, but even more so, they want people to read a lot more nonfiction. And I don't mean like the history of the Yankees. I mean like here is a manual on how the transportation department is run through the state, or things like that.
That's being read in a classroom?
I don't know that specific one is being read, but They are, yeah. They want to introduce more of that kind of thing. But that acclimates people to getting those ideas in their head and that they're okay because that's what the government is doing now. So these are acceptable ideas.
So it's shaping somebody's mind,
Right.
Not really caring whether they learn how to read or write, but that they believe the right thing.
Right. So
You
they
find
can't
this-
just say books because they've
Right.
got all these manuals.
You
and
find
and
this
things
everywhere, though.
as well.
Kid graduates from high school, can't spell his own name, but they're nice to gays and they're nice to they're world citizens and they want to save the earth and blah blah blah,
Right.
and they can't count to 10 without using their fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see this all the time. Jay, I am an employer, as you know.
Yeah.
I have been a manager and done things. I've hired and fired people for the last 15 years, off and on. I can tell in 30 seconds who has had a good education and who hasn't. I don't necessarily mean in the schools either.
Right.
Because things have to be reinforced at home.
Absolutely.
But it's obvious.
yeah.
Two people can have the same diploma, and one can be dumb as rocks, and one can be very articulate, and so on
Right.
and so forth. Now, here's the second thing. I want you to hear this. Safe and civil schools, which is a new idea too, I guess. An evidence-based approach to help school staff improve safety and civility across all school settings to create a foundation to engage students and enhance learning.
I would like to know, they have started now both of these with an evidence-based approach. Where are they getting their evidence from? Who's doing the studies? And what kind of evidence is being supplied to the school district to shape their policies?
Of course, we don't know that.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd put it out there.
Well, it's probably somewhere on the web. We might have to hunt it down.
Okay.
Multi-tiered system of supports. Is that like having two jocks? Multi-tiered system of supports.
Word.
A framework for helping all learners succeed by matching interventions, instruction, and assessment to the personalized needs of learners. How many kids know their personalized needs?
Most people are not self-aware.
Most
as
adults don't know that.
Yeah.
Most
Right.
people who are alcoholics don't know it.
Right.
Personalized needs, like they walk down with a shopping cart and they get their personalized needs filled up. Gifted and talented education, a mission to integrate specialized services, whatever that is, and provide differentiated instructional programming so that a gifted and talented learners reach their full potential. If anything, schools have gone in the opposite direction. of that.
Absolutely.
Because you can't have the A class, the B class, and the C class, because the C class doesn't feel good. The way that they've done this in education is to drag down achievers to everybody else's level.
Right.
So if this is not going on, it's this district's fault that it isn't. When I
Right.
went to this district, we had the high class, the middle class, and what we used to call the bonehead class. The teachers called it the bonehead class. I didn't come up. You think I came up with that as like a sixth grader? No. It was, you're in the bonehead class.
Yeah, no, and I remember as a first grader being forced to go to the second grade class for reading because I
Was ahead of the
I was
curve.
ahead.
Right.
And we all joined in on this big long road back to the middle, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
But it's,
And that can happen. I mean, some kids get a jump on kindergarten or whatever. I mean,
I could read in kindergarten.
Yeah,
I
I
was
could
the
too.
only one that could read
and I did
in
not go.
preschool.
I did not go to government run pre-K. I just want to let people know it is possible.
I didn't go to government-run pre-K either.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here's the last one. Oh, and Eckhoff and the people at RFT have got to love this.
Yeah.
Professional learning.
Oh, there we go. There's the tie-in with the unions.
Yeah, adding 3 professional days of learning
You are kidding me.
to the calendar while incorporating flexible learning days for students to ensure continuity of student learning.
What?
Now, can I ask a question? Can these professionals, how about they know what they're doing when they get their job?
Hey, I gotta no. I get this, because as a teacher, you have to take continuing ed to get better. You have to take classes. Some go for masters. Some just take continuing ed.
That's different.
To keep their teaching
master's degree is different.
Well, even to keep your teaching license, you have to go back and
there's a continuous hours to put in.
But there are also these union mandated. Well, I don't want to say mandated. There are the union sets up these teacher workshops, these in-service days.
MEA week,
right? MEA week is one of those. But like you have them. It's why in January you have
a random Friday off.
Right, a random Friday or Monday off, like 2 weeks after Martin Luther King Day. Is that January or is that President's Day?
Yeah, President's Day is February.
It's February. That's what I thought. So, yeah. So in February, then you have another one a couple weeks after President's Day. And it's...
you should see my nephew's calendar where he goes in. Okay, they have more 4-day weeks than 5-day weeks.
They have more holes.
That's no joke.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm taking Thanksgiving and that into account. But they have fewer 5-day weeks.
There's more holes in their calendar than a volleyball net.
No kidding.
It's
more than a Clinton story.
Right. But and so this is the thing. I mean, this is where the union involvement comes in. They want to be able to get teachers into their programs to teach them their things. Now, granted, some of these are retirement planning and things like that, but some of them are also like how to create tolerant classrooms.
Retirement plan. Can't they study their retirement on their own time?
You know what? I'm in favor of this. I think that having those 3 days of teacher in service would be great, and they should be in July.
No kidding. Why can't they do this the week before Labor Day? Yeah. They all go back for the week and prep for the whole school year.
That's a great idea.
Interventions.
See, we are community solutions because we come up with solutions.
Those are
Why
solutions.
can't they have them before the school year or after the school year? Why do they got to have them?
And we all know what MEA is. It's 3 weeks before the election. It's a DFL fundraiser. Let's call it what it really is. Mm-hmm. They pass out political propaganda.
Yeah,
it's got nothing to do, and this all this school board is doing is kissing the governor's rear end and blaming the legislature. That's all they're going to do with us.
Right.
They will accept no accountability, no responsibility, nothing whatsoever. Nothing has ever been the fault of this school district.
Right. So, forgive me for I know we
don't forgive me for going off because.
Have we actually talked about? I mean, are we done with that part of it yet, or no?
No, Jay. It's our podcast. We can go on as long as you want.
Well, that's true. I don't want to move on to the other details of this until you've covered all of that.
I've covered it all.
Yeah. So the district wants to ask voters. Currently, we're spending $2,012.53 per pupil.
Okay, that is from property tax money, I believe, directly, not including state, federal money.
That is correct.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, because that's what the old operating referendum was. So they say if this new levy is approved, it's going to generate $6,498,803 of general education revenue for the district. Now,
over how long of a period of time? They don't even say, do they?
Not really, no.
Well, if they're in a $10 million hole, how does $6 million get us out of that hole?
And that's the thing. I mean,
I tell you what.
Yeah.
I took math in District 281. Okay? And it was better then than it is now. Can I just say that?
Yeah. It's true. Oh, and this is the thing. I mean, the levy increase would generate this almost $5 million of general education revenue. The way that is phrased doesn't even sound like it is going to be split up per pupil evenly. Like this could be used for any kind of general education.
Probably. If it goes in the general fund, I think they can repurpose it any way that they want to. Remember, this is money directly from the taxpayers here, not state money with strings attached or federal money with strings attached. And I think they can purpose that as long as it doesn't go to capital expenses, because that's a different side of it.
Right. So, So that number, the $2,012.53 per pupil, It's an annual inflation adjustment added to that for a period of 10 years, and that actually has not become effective yet. That's for the 2019-2020 school year, because they're saying that right now, so after that last referendum in 2014, it provides $1,418 per pupil for 10 years, along with $3.5 million per year for 10 years for technology. So that's the two referendums that we were talking about. So that goes till 2024. So if we pass this new one, of course,
numbers are going through my head right now.
Right. So do we pay on both of them concurrently,
yes.
or okay?
It's a bait and switch.
Right.
What they're going to do is stop the old one and reintroduce this one, even though that one still has 6 more years to go. This is what they did back in 2008 when they passed a 7-year one, but the one they passed had 4 more years left to go.
Right.
So they'll stop the old one. And I guess if they haven't explicitly said that, I don't know, and institute the new one and make it longer. So they'll go till there's not even a time frame to how long this
well, this is why they were in a rush, though, to get it in this year, is because then it could still be good for the 2019-2020 school year, I think. Whereas if they wait, it's not good until the 2020-21 school year.
Because they won't collect the property taxes till May 15th of the next year.
Right.
So if something passes this year, they will get the money in May of 2019. If they wait, they'll get it in May of 2020.
Right.
So that's they know that. Cities work the same way. They have the even if you escrow, that's why they keep certain fund balances until May, because they don't get their payments until then.
And I know you're not looking at the same article that I'm looking at. So your point about them blaming the legislature and
I don't even have to read it. Yeah.
School board member John Vento explained that they keep putting it back into our lap to ask districts' taxpayers for additional funding through referendums because they did not approve the $2 million of emergency funding that supported Dayton's proposal.
Well, that's interesting. A $2 million statewide thing? I mean, would that fix a $10 million gap?
No.
So then what's he talking about?
Well, again, they're using Common Core, so there is that.
Bento, I don't know what he's using.
But so this is crazy. But I wanted to touch base before we switch topics on how it's worse if we wait than if we do it this year. And I want to say
You're
this.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. If we do this in 2018, at least a lot of people are going to turn out to vote. They're not going to be very well educated.
Plus, let me throw one more thing in there.
Yeah.
The board is up as well.
Yes.
So we have an opportunity to run opposition candidates. You have an opportunity to sort of force them to explain themselves, run on a huge tax increase.
Yep.
It's a lot different than doing it when they're not on the ballot.
I mean, if you vote on this, if you have the referendum on the 2019 ballot, Golden Valley, only part of Golden Valley is in District 281. But
the upper half.
Right. So the upper half of Golden Valley is the only one that will be going to the polls in 2019 anyways for a city council election. Nobody else in 281 votes in an odd year. So to put this referendum on an odd year is really just a way to skate by.
Right. I think, though, that if they think, here's what it tells me. Here's what their comments tell me. The comments tell me they don't have the money, they don't have the strategy, they don't have the propaganda. They're worried it's not going to pass. They're worried they're going to be answering questions about why you just got a referendum and blah, blah, blah. What did you do with all that? They don't want to answer it. They want the boogeyman to blame. So they want to do it in a year where most people aren't going to pay attention, aren't going to know till it's too late, aren't going to vote. And I really think that if they really want this to pass, it will go next year.
Yes.
But they could go both years. They don't have to. This is the thing about a no vote.
Yeah.
It can get turned down this year, and they can come right back at us next year if they want to.
They could.
And they can redefine their message, figure out what worked and what didn't. They have another year to fundraise, another year to take those union dues. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it in both years.
Yeah.
They could reframe the question. They could ask 2 questions.
Right.
They could go for a shorter length of time. There's a lot of...
They've committed to this district unified vision, and they're not going to just say, oh, well. I mean, they spent money on creating this vision.
They spent your money.
Yeah.
And my money.
Exactly. If you're a taxpayer into 281, they spent your money from the last referendum that they've collected and now don't have enough money to fix things with. They spent some of that money on creating this so that they can ask you for more money. I hope you like that. I mean, that's, you know.
I love it.
That's good. Oh, that's like butterscotch pudding good right there. Oh. Can we move on?
Do we have to?
Is it any better to move on or stay on this? I don't know. But you all need to be aware of this because it could come this year. And if they're deciding that they're going to walk down that road, we will definitely podcast and blog about it. And as if that, well, it will make a dent in it. And hopefully we can push it back. And hopefully those of you in 281 will realize that, hey, they put out 2 referendums for a 10-year period, and we're not even halfway through it, and they're asking for more money. That proves 2 things. 1, they're not spending your money wisely, and they don't deserve another cent. And 2, they're not spending your money wisely, and you need to get rid of them and put somebody in there who will spend your money wisely.
That's a lot to do.
That's a lot to do, but you'll have an opportunity maybe this November to do both of those things, which would be fantastic. So, with that said, we go from bad to bad. I don't know if it's worse. It's bad. You've heard us talk a ton about the Met Council, and a couple podcasts ago we talked about how Representative Jason Lewis out in CD2 had put forth an amendment to take the Met Council, which is currently the only metropolitan planning organization in the country that has only appointed people and make some of those people elected. In our research, preparing for that, I mean, this is the beauty of what we do. I mean, we shorten learning curves. We've been at this for 10 years, and we're still finding things out because they're always creating new things, new schemes, new layers of government. So we found out that at the time when we reported this, we thought there were 5 metropolitan planning organizations in the state. We have now found out there are 8. But the metropolitan planning organizations don't cover everything. The metropolitan planning organizations that we have, like we said, are the Metropolitan Interstate Council in Duluth Superior, the East Grand Forks Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Fargo-Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments, the St. Cloud Area Planning Organization, the Metropolitan Council here in the cities, the Rochester-Olmsted Council of Governments, the La Crosse Area Planning Committee, and the North Mankato Area Planning Organization. So all of those are tasked with mostly transportation needs, but the Metropolitan Council here in the cities obviously does a lot more than that. Haven't had time to look into all of these.
So that's why they don't have MADO in those areas.
That's right. So, yeah, we've talked about that a little bit, at least when we've been out and about. We have not on the podcast yet talked about MADO, and we thought this was a good opportunity to do that.
MADO.
So, MADO stands for the Minnesota Association of Development Organizations.
RDOs, sometimes they're called.
RDOs, they're sometimes called the Regional Development Organizations. So this is your regional government at work across the state, across the face of Minnesota. All of it is covered by regional development other than a diagonal line from St. Cloud down to the southeast corner of the state down in Houston County. And there is a reason for that. Like Andrew just said, I mean, you have, when you look at the metropolitan planning organizations, you have St. Cloud. That probably comes pretty close to where the Met Council starts. Met Council ends probably pretty close to where the Rochester Olmsted area starts, and that probably comes pretty close to where the La Crescent and La Crosse RDO starts, MPO starts. So you've got a whole line of metropolitan planning organizations up and down that corridor where there are no RDOs. So what do? We've got these 10 organizations. There are 9 of them that are considered true regional development organizations. And if you're to look at a map to name those, you would have the Minnesota Association of Development Organizations as an umbrella over the top. And then kind of coming down from the top of the state, you'd have the Northwest RDO, the Headwaters Regional Development Commission, which is just to the east of that, the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission, which
Northeast.
is, of course, northeast area with the Iron Range and all of that. You have Region 5 Development
And I should
Commission.
mention,
Yes.
you mentioned that Arrowhead one. I mean, that's probably like a dozen counties or something. Oh, maybe not.
Not up there, because you
Louis,
have
Cook,
St. Louis,
Lake,
Cook, and Lake, and
Itasca. I think it starts with it may Couchiching. Maybe it's got a half a dozen. But if you looked at it on a map, I mean, it's hundreds of square miles. It's huge.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right, because it does go over, where that little tail is that sticks up at the north edge of the state. That's kind of in the middle of the the Headwaters, which is centralized or seated in Bemidji.
Bemidji, what is that? What county is that?
That is
Becker County, or it's
no.
It's going to bug me, but I can't turn from the page I'm on. So I'll think of it. It's not Itasca. It's just west of Itasca.
Right.
Itasca's
is it
Grand Rapids.
Beltrami?
Beltrami, that's it. Couchiching, I know that's north of Itasca. And you've got Lake, Cook, St. Louis. But, I mean, I just wanted to point out, I mean, that's a big area. We're not talking about, a dozen townships and 3 cities here. I mean, we're talking Duluth, Hibbing, Virginia, Grand Rapids, 2 harbors. All the small towns in between, Eveleth, all the way along Highway 2, everything east of that, all the way to the Canadian border.
Grand Portage, all of that is in that. It is big. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Probably 200 townships in there. I don't know. There's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of townships up that way.
Can I point out something here?
Okay.
The one in the far northwest corner.
Yes.
Northwest Regional Development Commission.
Mm-hmm.
I just clicked on their websites for S&Gs.
Okay.
We all know what that means. Guess what the first thing is I see?
Yes.
Walk, bike, fun. Bike fleet reservation.
Huh.
Would you like to implement the walk, bike, fun, pedestrian, bicycle safety curriculum in your community?
Curriculum. So this is what they teach.
It's all about physical education. This is
It's active
living under a different name.
Yep.
But if you are out in the middle of nowhere, out in northwest Minnesota, and when you look at the map, I mean, this is north of Fargo-Moorhead.
If you want to bike from War Road to Roseau.
Yeah, this is, or whatever, Crookston.
Yeah,
I mean, you want
Crookston,
this is so. Picture this in your head: north of Fargo-Moorhead, northwest of Bemidji, Grand Rapids, Detroit Lakes, everything up there.
Yep.
Implement a walk, bike, fun bike fleet reservation program in your community. That's what's being served by this garbage.
Well, and
I just looked at I looked at the first page.
Yeah, it's terrible. But I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, on one of these podcasts, what we just said, let's pick a city. Hey, let's pick Roseau and look at their plan. So we looked at their comprehensive plan, and it was the same thing as you'd find in any other city. Any big city, anything here in the metro, same thing.
It wasn't written by anybody in Roseau.
No, but as we will find out, MADO had a huge hand in deciding what went in there via the Northwest Regional Development Commission. Also, just finish listing the rest of these out for you so you know where they are. Region 5 Development Commission, the Region 5 one, is smack dab in the middle of the state. That's where Staples is. That's where Little Falls is.
Brainerd.
Yep. Absolutely.
North of St. Cloud.
Yep. All of that area. Just to the southeast of that, you have the East Central Regional Development Commission, Mora, Pine City.
Isanti County, Kennebec County.
Yep, all of that is there. And then if you go... We'll go to the southeast corner or southwest corner of the state. You have the Southwest Regional Development Commission, which, that goes about 25% of the way east, and then you've got Region 9, which is Mankato. Above that, you have the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission, which has Wilmer in that area. Just to the west of that, you have the Upper Minnesota Valley Regional Development Commission. And then so those are the 9 regional development commissions. And then kind of smack dab on the western border of the state, right in the middle, you have what they call as the WCI, which is not technically a regional development commission. It's called the West Central Initiative. It does a lot of the same things. It gets a lot more into like being a regional workforce, as well as handling some of the other things that they do, the other regional development commissions do. So yeah, it's bad, Minnesota. I mean, if you look at their website, it's MNADO. MNADO.org. You can see the map right there and how it's all covered, except for that area not served by an RDO, but they're served by a heck of a lot of metropolitan planning organizations, so nobody gets off from regional government scot-free. It just doesn't happen. So, yeah. So MADO is the group that's over all 10 of these organizations, not the metropolitan planning organizations, but over the regional development.
So Jay, you're saying there's a organization above these organizations.
Yep.
So who's MADO? Can you tell who is on MADO? I mean, what does that mean exactly?
Well, MADO is made up of people that are elected to county and local offices, and they're then, I guess, appointed, so they're not directly elected, to be a part of MADO. Also, that's the way these RDOs are made up as well. Mm-hmm. So a regional development organization, it's something that has been designated by the United States Department of Commerce. So this is one of their tools, their creations. Also, they may be called economic development districts as well, to try and get the economies of these small towns, small cities that are out in rural areas, to be more productive.
more urbanized, I would argue.
I would argue that too. That's their approach to
their approach is to have a central city,
right,
typically like a county seat, be kind of like a Minneapolis to everybody else.
And they want to grow the populations of those areas by providing these things that you would find in a metropolitan area, because
Transit,
they think
high density housing.
They think it will attract people out there, and then you will have more business. So in 1969, the Minnesota State Legislature created a statute that allowed these local units of government to form the regional governments. So they provide a variety of unique services, they say, and there's a lot of what you would call welfare, whether it's providing affordable housing,
grant money,
that kind of stuff, especially grant money. They partner with state and federal agencies, to obtain and administer grants for programs. They are governed by a board of directors composed of elected officials and special interest groups.
Yes.
So it's not just elected people.
And some of them may have citizens, token citizens. I know the one up at Arrowhead has like 2 or 3 or 4 citizen people. I don't know who they are. I mean, they probably are part of the same club.
Well, and they
probably former council people, former...
Could be, or they're special interests.
Yeah, they're business people.
Yeah, I mean... bringing special interests in. I mean, it's
talk about a conflict of interest. You bring in somebody who can potentially, a business person, who could potentially, I don't want to say profit, but maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, over, decision making that happens. I mean, if I remember if Congress, I couldn't do that.
Right.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of, it is kind of crazy.
Right. So what kind of things do they do?
We don't have to know that, do we?
Oh, no. Why would we have to know that? But we kind of mentioned it already. I mean, they're involved in transit and transportation.
Of course they are.
Of course they are. They help with comprehensive planning. So that's why I say that all of the comprehensive plans of the cities in greater Minnesota that are in these regional development organizations have the same or similar comprehensive plans, because MADO help direct what goes into those plans at the region, and we'll get into why that is true in a moment.
Well, and also right on the front page, mado.org, why is this important? They have a whole section on why is this important.
Well, if they don't know.
The beginning of the 21st century presents a number of challenges and opportunities to rural Minnesota. I would disagree that all this under MADO is rural.
Right.
I would disagree with that, but whatever.
Right.
Minnesota, as it charts its economic future, an economy that is now driven by innovation, demands we create an environment that nurtures its talent. And did they in 281 go to the same? Is this the unified MADO vision that we're listening to?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't understand what any of this means. But listen to what the words they use. In order for rural Minnesota to succeed, there needs to be a strong collective and credible voice that can create and move forward an economic agenda at the state and local federal level. Let me translate that. We're going to have one policy everywhere. We're going to have one point of view everywhere.
Yep.
Everybody has to conform.
Yep.
And that is their collective. You know what the collective should be? If I live in Worthington and I live in Roseau, those are 2 different places.
Yes.
They got nothing in... I bet their economies are nothing alike. Hell, their climate, you could argue, is quite a bit different.
Right.
One place could have fishing resorts, a paper mill, and how the heck do they get together? This sounds to me like they're going to get together and demand free money from somebody. And if you want to make these places attractive, okay, for people to move, here's what you do. You get rid of the barriers. You get rid of the high taxes. You get rid of the high regulation. You create an entrepreneur-friendly atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, why do we have ghost towns? Because the main part of the economy got up and left for whatever reason, whether that's an old gold rush town or an old mining town, or government regulation or taxes came in and killed it.
Right.
So a strong collective and credible voice. This is the death, my friends, of rural Minnesota.
Yes.
I mean, that's the ultimate plan, is everybody in an urban place where they can be controlled.
Exactly. And it's about housing services. It's about,
transit, roundabouts, waterways, you name it, that has to do, that's happening here, wants to be spread all over the place.
And I know, being from Duluth myself and being from outstate, that we don't necessarily have the most trust in Minneapolis, St. Paul. That we don't see ourselves as the same as Minneapolis, St. Paul. I don't want to say that we look down on that area. I would say, though, that oftentimes the perception is that Minneapolis, St. Paul think that they're better than outstate Minnesota.
There is that.
There is a perception of that in greater Minnesota. And I will tell you, being from that area, and it's not entirely untrue. Yet, if you look at the people who put all of this together, MADO created a plan called the Develop Minnesota Plan 2016. And so...
can I just jump on that real quick?
Yeah.
The development is based on goals. Guess what they call the goals? SMART goals.
Of course they do.
Oh, that wasn't borrowed and stolen.
No, that did not come from Smart Growth for America.
No, of course not.
Of course not.
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-related. SMART goal. Total propaganda. We know that they borrowed that. They go on about, I mean, look, we could go on about this forever in great detail. I don't know how much, Jay, you want to touch on it. MNADO.org is where this is. I am on the Development MN 2016 page. You can click on that, and it's about 18, 16 pages long of the same kind of thing that you're going to find in any comprehensive idea anywhere.
Right.
I mean, really, it's just kind of supplanted and put into this. It's tailored as a sales piece.
Right. Well, and they got the principles for this plan from a variety of sources. One of those being the Department of Employment and Economic Development, DEED.
Yes.
Another one being the University of Minnesota, which I know
they know a lot about rural Minnesota.
Oh boy, do they! And this is why I brought up that point, especially for those of you out in Greater Minnesota that don't necessarily trust the Twin Cities. Why would you trust them here in developing your part of the state? They met with state and local economic development organizations, philanthropic foundations, like we talked about in our last podcast, or was that two podcasts ago? Local governments, state and local elected officials, the business community, educational institutions. I know, and I'm not looking at it right now, but I've read this before. MADO reviewed best practices for economic development from the U.S. Economic Development Administration, or the National EDA, the National Association of Development Organizations, NATO, which, yes, there is an organization above MADO called NATO that is giving them marching orders.
We're not talking about NATO as in all the countries. It's NATO, not NATO.
That's right, okay. NADO.
Well, here's my favorite. My favorite part is active transportation.
Can I say one other thing? They also used examples of statewide comprehensive plans compiled in other states. What does a comprehensive plan in Denver, Colorado have to do with a comprehensive plan of Grand Marais, Minnesota?
Nothing. What it has to do with is making everybody a cookie cutter.
Right.
Now, it has all these call to actions in it. Active transportation, which of course is creating a bicycle-friendly community. That's the big thing. Currently, 13 communities in greater Minnesota have this designation. Zippity-doo-dah, complete streets, which is an approach to road planning and design. Again, same thing that we see everywhere else.
That would be like Birch Street in Alexandria, where you have 2 lanes, a center turn lane, and bike lanes on the side.
Grand Rapids, Highway 38, going out of town. I just drove it yesterday.
Yeah.
You can go from point A to B using whatever mode of travel they use. Greater Minnesota communities that have adopted a complete streets policy include Rochester, Albert Lea, Duluth, Byron, Red Wing, Pipestone, Breckenridge, South St. Cloud Area Planning Organization, Rochester Olmsted Council of Governments, Battle Lake, Dilworth, Wilkin County, St. Cloud, Clay County, Ottertail County, Northfield, Austin, Fergus Falls, and Frazee. Isn't that the owner that sold Babe Ruth, Harry Frazee? Yeah. And, of course, they have their SMART goals.
Yes, I do.
As opposed to our dumb goals. But they have their SMART goals. Increase the number of communities that have complete streets. Well, you're basically pushing this policy, right?
Right.
I mean, increase the number of communities that have achieved the bicycle-friendly community designation as designated by the League of American Bicyclists. Again, a outside group that is getting MADO to help them push their agenda.
Right.
Now, you want to go on. Transit. Pardon me. I'm talking so much I'm losing my voice here. In 1990, 40 of Greater Minnesota's 80 counties outside the 7-county metro have some form of public transportation. By 2009, it was 76. Of course, what's the goal, do you think? Increase or decrease?
That's always the increase.
Of course. Yeah, it is. That's the smart goal, Jay. The smart goal.
Increasing is always smart.
Housing. Once again, call to action. In greater Minnesota, nearly half of all renters spend more than 30% of their income on housing, while 30% of homeowners with a mortgage, well, I don't know if you were spend at least 30 cents of every dollar they earn on housing. Here's an idea. Get the damn government out of housing to begin with.
Yeah.
How many property tax increases have we seen affecting people's housing?
All of them.
Yeah, pretty much. Kind of can't get around it.
Right.
So, the smart goal, move toward an equilibrium in housing markets. So what are you going to do? Manipulate the market? So that what? Everybody's a homeowner? Homeownership's not an entitlement.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
Strategies, listen to this.
Okay.
Provide more coordinated housing planning. In other words, we're all going to talk to each other and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Advocate for funding programs. Oh, zippity-doo-dah. Increase the number of units rehabilitated or preserved. Encourage development of transitional and permanent supportive housing. Collect and share management best practices. Oh, once again, we're all going to do the same thing. Figure out which one everybody hates the most, and then implement that everywhere.
Yeah. Of course, active transportation is a big deal in the Develop Minnesota 2016 plan. It says, call to action, active living planning and implementation will help improve community health, livability, and social capital. And the context, the Bicycle-Friendly Community, BFC
program. Did you hear me just say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to reiterate because...
Making sure you heard me.
Yeah, well, we had the whole conversation about so it's just unbelievable that you guys don't think that this is going to affect you. You don't believe us when we say it's the same thing everywhere.
Just curious, if I'm in Grand Marais, what is my biking season at an average here? I'm just asking. Okay. Now, Grand Rapids, I was just up there. The water got off the ice about May 10th.
Yeah.
So what was my biking season up there?
Oh, boy. Transit is another big piece of this, Transit in rural and small urban areas will be increasingly important for access to services. Urban
areas.
Yeah.
The key sentence there is urban. How do you create something urban? You make it compact. You make it impossible to drive. You make it car free so that people have to stay there to do everything.
Well, and part of the push is equitable mobility for people to be, whoever you are, whatever your ability, to be able to be mobile. And so they're talking about rural transit systems.
The transit systems in the Twin Cities hemorrhage us up enough.
Yeah.
Imagine a rural. We're going to make light rail from Hutchinson to Wilmer. How much money would that lose?
Well, I don't know if that's what they're talking about
specifically. Right, but I know I'm just throwing something out there. But
I mean, they haven't made those decisions on exactly what to do yet, just that by the year 2021, they need to increase the level of service.
Here's the thing. A level of transit is one thing. A comprehensive, for example, Duluth has their own transit system.
Yes.
Okay, now Duluth runs it, though, right?
I need to do more research into that and make sure that it's not their regional government that oversees that, because they are in charge of transit. And I was looking at that actually earlier today, that the whatever it was called, Metropolitan Council on something whatever for Duluth Superior.
It's all
about
matter.
Transit.
Yeah.
So, or transportation rather. Sorry, it's all about transportation, and so there's a good chance that the DTA, as they call it, the Duluth Transportation Transit Authority.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious though.
Yeah.
If I'm living up, say I'm living up in Aiken County.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a small need for transit. Why can't Aiken County just do it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like, for example, if their largest two cities have something to do,
right,
why is it that a regional authority has to come in? See, what they're going to do is they're going to make the conditions to make transit.
Right.
They're not saying it's so crowded out in Yellow Medicine County that we need transit out there. No, they want to create the conditions on which make transit plausible.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The high-density housing, the car-free zone,
right,
the bike paths, the complete streets, the roundabouts, the making it into like a mini metropolitan area.
Right.
Which is the death of these small towns. This is where your life's over, folks.
Exactly.
As you know it.
In addition to all this, they also make plans around clean energy, water infrastructure, all of the environment stuff, solar and wind capacity. And so it doesn't matter that you have elected soil and water conservation district managers to oversee this. It doesn't matter that your counties have appointed people to oversee your watershed districts and that there are citizen advisory councils that help support that. We need to have another level of government above that to tell them what to do.
Right. They're going to bring plans, sales pitches, all of that stuff. Well, here's how we do it. Here's the trend. Here's the same thing we talk about every week. Here's how to get the grant money. Here's blah, 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 blah. I mean, you know, we talked in the last couple episodes about what we're up against. You know, what is driving all of this. We talked about that with the foundations and where their money's going. And so, I mean, we can walk into any state, Jay, and find the same things being pushed, the same agenda, the same regional governments, the same sources where they get their studies.
It's happening here. It's happening in Texas. It's happening in Utah.
Red state, blue state, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Doesn't.
I mean, ultimately, it's like our legislatures and our Congress and the president and the governors. It's almost like if they all died tomorrow, or an earthquake blew up every state government, nothing would really change because this is where the slack would get picked up.
Right.
This is going forward.
The structure exists.
This is going forward no matter who's elected.
Yeah. The nice thing, if there is a nice thing about
I'm glad
MADO,
you caught yourself there.
If there is a nice thing about MADO and these RDOs across the state, where with the Met Council, they have the power over comprehensive plans of metropolitan cities to say, no, this doesn't meet our Thrive MSP 2040 plan well enough. You need to go back and redo it and force communities to go back and fix them so that they align with that plan. My understanding is that MADO does not have that same power. And
I believe that's a special power designated to the Met Council.
But because you already have MADO and the RDOs filled up with elected officials, this is exactly what they will take back to their communities, and there won't be a fight because they are the ones who implemented it.
Right. They've already agreed. And we've talked about the fallacy of elected officials joining this.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of them. I mean, I was thinking since we talked last, let's pretend that the Met Council for a minute had elected officials on it.
Yes.
Let's say one of them came from Hennepin County. I'll just pretend. Mm-hmm. Well, my Hennepin County commissioner is Jeff Johnson. Now, you know damn well between you and me, they ain't putting Jeff on this.
Right.
So if Jeff's my county commissioner and say they appoint Peter McLaughlin, how do I get rid of Peter McLaughlin?
Right.
I don't. Only his constituents in Minneapolis, who are all asleep or can't speak English, are the only people who can get him out of there. So ultimately, you don't have control over any of this.
Right.
I have no control over who's appointed. So if you could have a county in, I'll pick on Aiken County again. I don't know much about them. I know where it is. That's about it. They could have 3 commissioners who think like we do, 4 that don't, and one of the ones who doesn't gets appointed to this.
Yeah.
How in the hell is that representation? Either way, it is still somebody serving 2 masters. It is still somebody going above and beyond the oath that they took to the people who elected them, to their district, to their ward, to their constituents, to get themselves appointed to something else and take that agenda back down to where they are serving.
Yes, absolutely.
So it is B as in B, S as in S, to quote Sushri. Okay, it is total BS, Barbara Streisand. It is nonsense to say that is a fix to this. With all due respect to people like Congressman Lewis and Commissioner Schulte up in Anoka County, who's a good guy, but he's wrong on this. I'm sorry, he's just wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to get appointed. I don't know.
I don't know. And granted, I don't think people should be appointed to things like this. I don't think that they should be elected to things like this either.
I don't think these things should exist.
Yeah.
And again, the flaws and fallacies of regional planning are so great. I mean, for example, let me throw out a scenario, Jay.
Yeah.
The Botno Boulevard, or the Botno line.
Yes.
Okay. When that was conceived, okay, most of the people who were in city government then are not there now.
That's true.
So times have changed, views have changed, the price tag's changed.
Yes, and not for the better.
Right. But the rationale is, well, we've spent all the time, we've spent all the money, we have to go forward with it. Isn't that in and of itself the flaw of regional planning?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at right now. They're starting to actually try and get cities to start putting the transit stations in, or developing around where they would be, rather.
That's in their comprehensive plans that they're developing now.
Right, exactly. But BNSF doesn't want to allow them to use the.
It's their railroad. They own it.
So
Mike
why are
Opat
we?
Thinks he owns everything.
Why are we building this stuff up? Why are we changing things? Why are
Because-
we still having meetings about how we're going to build this out?
Because putting the stuff there, spending the money on it, will be the rationale to keep going.
Well, I know. Yeah.
What's happening in all the cities, Crystal too, around Becker Park. So I mean, it's going forward, even though. And I'm surprised. How come they didn't ask BNSF like 15 years ago?
Right.
Why is BNSF being brought on now? That's what I question. Oh, hey, by the way, it's your line. You mind if we use it? No, you're not going to. Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, don't you think maybe that should have come first?
Yeah.
And things that BNSF can change over time.
Right.
So, you know what? Maybe we said yes, fine. We've thought about it. We got a new CEO. We got more business. We've got whatever. We're not going to let you do it. What are you going to do? I mean, I bet they get taken to court. I mean, that's what I see coming. And again, what authority do the courts have to implement a light rail project?
Right. None. It should not be their decision.
But unfortunately, the courts have become the final arbiters too often of whether it's social policy or whatever.
Right.
They become the final say and the final authority.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing for a judge to hand down a sentence after a jury says innocent or guilty. It's another. It's it's one thing for a judge to decide between a plaintiff and a
or appeals process,
right? But to take something that belongs to somebody and say no. It's not okay that you own this because the need is greater here, and I'm going to give it to these people.
That's communism.
That's wrong.
Communism. It's the greater good.
Yeah.
They see as the greater good. That's right out of Karl Marx's writing.
It is.
No. All right. Well, there's MADO, folks.
Yeah.
Look it up. You'll start crying too.
mn80.org.
Not to mention the other organizations that aren't covered by MADO, which you just spelled out.
Go back to the beginning of the halfway through the podcast where I lay them out. And if you live in one of those areas, you're going to want to look at it because it does affect where you live. They make the policy that your cities implement. It's not your mayor. It's not your city council. It's your staff bringing these things to the cities from the regional planning organizations, from League of Minnesota Cities, that come ultimately from National League of Cities, that come ultimately from the National Association of Development Organizations, or NATO.
The bike people, the complete streets people, the everything you can possibly think of that we absolutely reason that I'm going gray is the same thing every single time.
Absolutely.
If you look hard enough, you will find the same connections that we talk about every time. We've been doing this for a year and a half consistently now, Jay,
Yep.
and it all comes back to the same groups, the same voices, the same people with money, the same outside groups, whether that's, like you say, the bicycle people, the transit folks, transit for livable communities, complete streets people. It is scary. And I'll tell you what, you and I went up to the St. Cloud area, Sartell outside. I hadn't been up there in a long time. I used to play softball up there a couple times a year. It's changed a lot up there, and not for the gooder.
Oh, no.
It's really almost unrecognizable.
The good news is I don't have to pay to go to Valley Fair this year. I already did it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good news.
Yeah, that is. Well, no, it's not good news.
I can't fit in the rides anymore.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but all you got to do is go up there and drive through those roundabouts. You feel like, you feel like wandering over to the nearest trash can and throwing up.
We did a whole show on roundabouts where I went off on Mankato for 15 minutes because 2 trucks nearly ran me over. And my truck's not exactly small or easy to tip over.
Right.
And I nearly got killed going 5 miles an hour around a roundabout. But I'll tell you what, up there, you're right. It is Valley Fair.
Yeah.
I didn't quite know where you were going with that, but I get it now. It's the Excalibur trying to go around.
Well, and the funny thing is, they've got those 3 in a row. I had gone up there a second time, and I kind of went a different way just to do a little exploring. I found 2 more. They have no fewer than 5 roundabouts in Sartell, which is how many people? I don't remember on the sign when we were
I
up there.
don't
It's
either.
It's
more than I thought, but
it's not a lot.
Yeah. It's not like it's city of 100,000.
No.
All right. Well, hey, sorry for the bad news, folks, but it's our job to report stuff, even if it stinks.
It is, and if you're now starting to dig into your regional government and you notice this stuff, you need to get a hold of us. You can do that at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. Whether it's happening at the regional level, the county level, the city level, the school level, whatever, we want to know about it so that we can let the whole world know about it. We are trying to get out there and get the word out. We're traveling around the state. We're talking to people. You want to have us out, please let us know, because we would definitely love to talk to you and your group, help people to get things together, to do what we do, to run for office, any of it. So get a hold of us, because we can help get this state a farm team of people that think like us, think like you. And that is our goal. 20,000 statewide. We can do it. The numbers are there, and let us prove it to you. All right. For Andrew Richter, I'm Jason Bradley. We're going to sign off for another week, but we will be back with another episode, I promise. Even if we have to do it from beyond the grave, we will come and do it. So we are Community Solutions Minnesota, and we love you, Minnesota. Now it's your turn to get to work.